Hello, everyone. I'm going to give another minute or so to let a few more people join, and then we will get started. I hope everyone's having a great Wednesday. All right. Welcome, everyone. My name is Carmen, and I'm the training coordinator of the Temple Small Business Development Center. The Temple SBDC helps small businesses start and grow. We provide free one-on-one counseling and a variety of low to no cost webinars, and we are proud to be a part of the nationally accredited network of SBDCs with over 1,000 centers across the United States. You've joined us today for WordPress for Beginners 1, Getting Started. A copy of today's PowerPoint and a link to the recording of this session will be sent out to all attendees. And while all attendees have been muted, we encourage you to post any questions in the chat or Q&A. And now I will turn the floor over to Sheila.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining WordPress for Beginners 1, Getting Started. This webinar is being put on by Temple University's SBDC, Small Business Development Center, hosted by Temple's Fox School of Business. We have been serving the small businesses of Philadelphia, Eastern Montgomery, and Lower Bucks counties since 1983. Our mission is to provide entrepreneurs and business owners the knowledge needed to make smart decisions and to prosper. I'm Sheila Bishop, a business consultant with the SBDC. I have more than 35 years of various IT experience. I've been a programmer, a project manager, a system administrator, just about everything. My last job before joining the SBDC, I was the VP of Monitoring Services Operations at Bank of America. I have a BA in computer science from Temple University, and I'm a dog owner and an inveterate knitter. Today's agenda, we're going to be planning our WordPress site. We're going to be talking about the content of your website, planning your site, hosting, WordPress.com versus WordPress.org. We're going to work on creating a site. We're going to be looking at WordPress dashboards and menus, pages and posts, and we're going to be working through some demos on actually setting up a WordPress site, looking at the dashboard and creating some pages and posts. So content is absolutely the most important step when you're creating a website, regardless of what hosting platform you use. You have to think about what's the purpose of your site. Are you using it for e-commerce? Is it going to be a business website, a membership site? You need to write compelling copy and connect to your customers and make sure you have calls of action. It's where you tell the story of your brand and connect with your customers. You want to show your products to their best advantages. You want to definitely avoid dense text. People scan web content. They don't read it like they would read a novel or a magazine. And you want to think about your valued keywords that your audience is searching for. And it's easier to build them in the beginning than try to go back and retrofit them. Another important consideration is quality control. You want to make sure you're using proper grammar, avoiding jargon, making sure you're double checking your spelling, and that your website has a high readability. Some pages you want to consider when you're creating your site are your home page. You want to make it an engaging landing spot. And when you're thinking about your home page, you want to definitely focus on the sort of above the fold section of your home page. And that's sort of that first real estate that the customer's coming to, either on the desktop or on a mobile device. It's not the only thing you need to think about, but you really want to make that something engaging so it makes them want to stay on your site and go deeper into your site. And everything doesn't have to be on your homepage. You want the homepage to draw your customers into the rest of the site using effective calls to action and engaging text and images. For the services, you want to be clear about what you're offering. You want to have clear descriptions and tell people how they should be engaging you. And you definitely want to have testimonials, which are different than reviews. Reviews are open to the customers to say whatever they want about you or your products. Testimonials are curated. So they are input from your customers that you've reviewed and that you've said, yes, I feel that this is an accurate representation of how I interact with my customers and how my customers see my business. So, they're not just, randomly whatever anybody said, maybe somebody who's not even your customer. They add credibility to your site. So when somebody comes to your site who hasn't been a customer, they can see what other customers' experiences are. And the About Us page differentiates you from a large big box store. There's a reason people are going to go to a small business as opposed to Amazon or Target, and that About Us page helps them make that connection. So you want to tell your story in an engaging way to build that connection with the customer. So how do you plan your site? It seems rather daunting in the beginning, but one of the really first steps that you can take is think about sites that you find engaging and that you like, right? So we call those inspirational sites. So look at those sites and analyze what you like and that you don't like about those sites. What's the readability of the inspiration site? What drew you to that site? What does the design say about you? What features stood out as helpful or informative? What's the colors of the site that you liked? What's the color of your logo? It's good to have the colors of your site kind of coordinate with your logo. If your logo is particularly bright or very pale, it's much better to have colors in your site that complement your logo as opposed to directly drawn from your logo. How do you want your site to be organized and laid out? And what pages do you want on your site? And what does your site hierarchy look like? It's much better to get your content together before you start building your site. It's much easier to make changes on paper than it is once you start building your site and now you're trying to rip things out and put them back together. Even if you get 70% of the way there, putting things together on paper, it will save you time in the long run. Your hierarchy can be a simple hierarchy, right? So for this type of hierarchy, this would be just a business site where you're giving information to your customers and showing them your products, but you're not doing e-commerce, right? So it's a very simple layout. Or it could be more complicated if you have an e-commerce store where you're showing products and you're showing services and that type of thing. So this is, very good to think about these things prior to trying to build your site. The next thing you need to get and define is your domain name and your site hosting. And this is something that people ask a lot of questions about because they say, what's the difference between my domain name and my hosting? So a domain name is like the address of your website that allows your customers to access the site. Where web hosting is where the physical files that make up your website are stored. And a simple way to think about it is that the domain name is like your address and your house is like the hosting, right? And I was thinking about this, and mostly we think of kind of our house and our address being like always together, right? But there was a show on for a while called like Texas House and Flip, and they would take the house up and they would move it, right? Like, so the address stayed where it was, but the house itself moved. And that's kind of the same thing. Your domain and your hosting usually stay together, but if for some reason you don't like your hosting site, or you should decide to change your domain name, which can cause SEO issues, but they don't always have to stay together, right? So they are kind of separate things, but you do need to get both before you build your site. And the flow usually goes like this. You get your domain name, something relevant to your business. Then you get the hosting, you associate the domain to your hosting. And since this is a WordPress class, you would then install WordPress and then you start building your site. You can get your domain with your hosting from many companies like Bluehost or SiteGuard. And there's a pro, the pro for that is it's one step. You have one company to work with. And generally, you can also skip the step where you're associating the domain to the hosting because they'll generally do that for you. And you can do the same thing with Squarespace because Squarespace will sell you your domain, and you can also get your hosting there specifically. And there's a couple others. The con with that is you're tying everything to one company. And that means if you get hacked, both your domain and your hosting can be compromised. And if you want to move your domain hosting to another platform, if you want to move your hosting to another platform, you also have to move your other domain, and your hosting site may have rules in place about moving your domain because it may have been free with your hosting, so you may have to leave it there for some period of time. There may be other considerations that you need to take into place. So just think about the pros and cons. There's just really is what's right for your business. The install WordPress section, most large WordPress hosting platforms have a one-step or one-button WordPress installation. So this isn't really usually as daunting as it seems. And even for ones that don't have it, there's very good instructions on how to do the WordPress install. We'll see later when we build our own WordPress site that this is for like a large platform, it's pretty easy to do this install WordPress. It seems kind of scary, the idea of doing that install, but for a large site, it's really conveniently done for you, really. Okay, so there are many popular hosting platforms, many more than are even listed here. But these are kind of the big ones that are out there: WordPress, Wix, Squarespace, Shopify, Weebly, and GoDaddy. And when you get the slides, this little picture right here is an Excel spreadsheet that'll show you some of the pros and cons of the different products and the costing of them of the time that the spreadsheet was put together. And I say that because all of these are always having different discounts, different sales. So you really need to check at the time that you're going to buy it, and just keep an eye on the fine print of the sales, because they're usually for 1 year, or if you buy 3 years, or for those 3 years, and then the prices revert back to like their standard price. So just be aware of that. And there's reasons to choose different tools, right? So if you have a site where you're just kind of selling maybe one product and you're mostly going to be keeping static content, well, you may want to think about Wix. It's very easy to use. It's good for if you want to, kind of have a static site. If you're going to sell, if really you're just going to concentrate on selling products and you're not going to worry about like blogs and that type of thing, but you're going to have a lot of products and you really need a site where you're going to get a lot of help with the shipping cost and that type of thing. Shopify has really good relationships set up with like UPS and the US Post Service. So you might want to think about Shopify. The nice thing about WordPress is that due to it being an open source content, which means that it's not owned by one particular company, it's like a consortium. So many places can feed into its code base. It's very flexible and easily extendable with multiple themes and multiple plugins, and it's kind of stayed very current and very vibrant. So that's one of the advantages of WordPress.org. Because just to make things more complicated, along with all those other choices and the ones that weren't even listed, there is actually 2 different WordPresses. There's WordPress.com and WordPress.org. WordPress.com is more like Wix or Squarespace. It's both the code and the platform kind of tied together. It's more suited for beginners. It's an all-in-one host for your websites and creating a domain. It has more limited functionality and customization, and you can pay for additional tiers to get additional functionality. So if you want to be able to use plugins, if you want extended themes, they have additional tiers on top of kind of the standard WordPress.com. WordPress.org is kind of more of an advanced solution. You can buy a hosting platform and put it on there. And if you don't like your hosting platform, you can move someplace else. You can, decide if you want a very fast hosting option or you want to buy a more or less expensive hosting option. It's software versus a web platform. That's why you have to buy an addition, the WordPress.org is free, but you have to buy a hosting solution to run it on. And it gives you more control over your website. And the nice thing though about WordPress.com is that if you are just getting started with WordPress, there's actually, you can go to wordpress.com/free, and you can start up a free website, so you can start getting comfortable and familiar with WordPress. Its dashboard and menus won't look exactly like WordPress.org if you decide then to move to that solution, but at least you can get in there and start learning without starting to pay a monthly fee. Oops, sorry. Okay. All right. So now we're going to do a little demo about creating a WordPress site. So we can take a look to see what's involved in doing that, and then I'll take any questions for what you may have so far. But first, we're going to set up the site, and then I'll take some questions. Okay, so I've already started my Bluehost platform. So this is what it looks like. If you have Bluehost, you basically log in to Bluehost itself, and it'll show you all the sites that you have. And I have a bunch just from different webinars and stuff that I've done. And we're going to go down to here to add sites, and we're going to add a new site. We're going to say create new site. And we're going to give it our name of our site. And the name of our site is Doggy Tales. And our tagline is where your dog's story matters. Okay. And then we're going to tell it what the directory name is. And this is just that. It's going to set up a directory structure on its platform. And this is what the directory name is going to be. And I'm going to call it WordPress for Beginners 1. And now what I was saying about the one kind of button WordPress install, that's exactly what it's doing right here. It's setting up the directory structure for our new site on its own servers, on Bluehost servers, and it's installing WordPress for us. So when we get past this site, we will have a kind of bare bones, or it's going to ask us a few more questions. And then when it's done with those questions, we'll have our kind of not completely blank, but our starter website that we can go on from. We can. So while it's doing that, are there any questions?
We are looking pretty good in the chat right now. I don't see anything.
Okay, sounds good. I'll take a drink of water then. Everyone enjoying our freezing cold weather? Oh. Okay, here we go. Now it's going to ask us what kind of site we're going to create, and I'm just going to go ahead and skip this step. And here on your own site, you want to undo this little I, and it'll show you the password, and you want to copy this information so that you know what the password is. So when you have to log back into WordPress, I'm going to skip this because everybody's watching, right? And I'm just going to log into WordPress. And you can always refine the password from the overall WordPress panel. You can reset the password from that kind of admin panel, or if you don't have that access, if somebody sets up the WordPress site for you, then the admin can set up that panel for you. Okay, that's it. We now have a WordPress site. We go up here and we can take a look. And we have sort of a bare bones, out of the box WordPress site. So yay, we had our first victory. Okay, we'll go back to the presentation. Okay, so we kind of quickly saw the dashboard and the menu for WordPress, but this is where you're going to be spending most of your time as you build your site. in the WordPress dashboard and menu. How do you access your dashboard? It will be https:/yourdomainname.com. And in this case, it's actually kind of that directory that I just set up. So in this case, it would be the WordPress wpweb1.com, and then it would be the wp-admin. You can change this. It's probably a good idea for security reasons to override this, but that's what it will be by default. So this will be your domain name that you set up, .com, and then the web wp-admin, and that's how you'll get to your dashboard. And the dashboard allows you to access and manage your site's content. Now, if you do go in and you set up either through the free or you buy WordPress, the first question when you see it might be, why doesn't my dashboard or menu match what I saw in the webinar? And there's a few things that influence how the dashboard and menu appear, and those include the theme you're using, your hosting platform, and the plugins that you're using. So all of those things will determine what kind of options you have on your menu and in your dashboard. But some of the important things that are on your dashboard are your at a glance section, which will show you an overview of your site. It'll tell you what your theme is, your current theme, the number of pages you have currently on your site, the number of posts, and the number of comments. You can see your activity, how many posts and comments you have, whether you need to approve a comment or whether you've unapproved comments. You can reply to comments, delete comments, mark them unappropriate. You can see events and news, and you can look at your plugins, and you can see any news from your hosting site. Again, the menu is really going to help you build your site. You can go in the tagline. You can change that tagline, the one where I said like every dog's story is important. You could change that to something else, like caring for your dog 24 hours a day or something. The time zone that, at least on WordPress, at least on Bluehost, it defaults to Greenwich Mean Time. So unless you want your site to be in Greenwich Mean Time, we'll go in the next demo and see how we can change our time zone. I highlighted these two in red because they're not ones that you want to go in and change. If you named your website one thing and you thought, oh, you know what, that's not really the name I wanted it to have, it might seem like, oh, I'll just change these two and it'll be fine, but it's not. Because like in that step when it's set up the whole WordPress, like I said, now it's kind of setting up WordPress, it's setting up the whole directory structure, it's setting up all your config files with all that information. If you want to change that, there's a lot of background work and a lot of planning and backing up your site and doing a lot of homework to actually make those changes. And then you kind of update these two fields. So don't update these two fields unless you've done all that research and you've made all that planning, and you probably really don't need to do that. So just be careful of those two fields. The reading panes, that's where you can change what the first page that people, when they come to your site, will see, and what the post page, what your blog page will look like. The front page is probably the one you'll be using the most. It's also where you can say whether your site will be open to crawling by search engines. And the discussions, this is where you can set up how comments will be managed by your site. For permalinks, that's the address that's going to be on all your pages and post. And it's really kind of the suffix kind of puts the prefix, I guess, of the URLs. And it's meant to be the permanent URL. So you need to kind of think about this as you're setting up your website. And you can change the setting later, but it will change the setting for all posts and pages, even past post. So if you have a page that Google has already indexed, and especially if it has a lot of traffic to that page with a really good SEO, it's going to lose that. It's going to treat it like a new page. You can override the permalink on a page or post itself. Again, at the beginning is the best time to do that. If you want the URL for that page to be something specific, but again, it's just something you want to think about before you start changing it. As I said, the discussions are about comments. Comments are on blog posts, generally speaking, and they can help drive the engagement to your site. You will have the issue of spammers, so you want to make sure you have a good anti-spam plugin installed. This as commit is almost always automatically installed along with your WordPress. So you'd pretty much have to uninstall it to remove it, and that's generally not a good idea. And there's really 3 things you want to do with comments, right? For good comments, you want to approve them. For spam comments, you want to mark them as spam. You don't want to just delete them, because when you mark them as spam, it helps your spam filters learn what is spam, right? So it helps improve their spam filtering. And then for comments that have bad language or otherwise something that doesn't add to the conversation of your post, then you want to trash those. And you might get comments that say something like, oh my gosh, this is the best discussion on doggy boarding I've ever seen. Here's a link to my article that's very similar. I've never seen such a great article. You're the best. You want to be kind of cautious about those. I mean, first, they're just flattering you. And second, that link may not be to a site about doggy boarding. It may be to something that's not something you would want associated with your site. Because that's kind of one of the spammy things that happen that maybe aren't noticed as spam. And if you get enough links like that on your site, Google will decide that you're in a bad neighborhood and that you must be also a site that needs to be watched. And it's very difficult to get those cleaned up. So that's why it's always a good idea to kind of be careful of, with comments are great and they add, like I said, they add vibrancy and conversation to your website. But, and if the comment's not adding to the, adding to the conversation, if they're just kind of complimentary, you may not want to, have it posted. Some other things you can do with the menu is you can, change your themes. You can review your themes. You can see what themes are active. You can delete old themes. Once you have your site up and running, it's good practice to delete old themes because hackers will look for old versions of themes and try to use that as an entry point to your site. And while you're probably keeping the theme you're using up to date, you may not be keeping the themes that you're not using up to date. So it's a good idea to delete those old themes. And in our next, and the WordPress for Beginners 2, we're going to really go into themes, how to add them, how to change them, and how to delete them. You can also add new plugins, see the plugins, configure plugins, add users, and change passwords in the menu. All right. So we'll do another quick little demo about navigating the dashboard. Is there any questions so far?
Yes. First, Yesenia, sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, says, I never knew that managing my spam was that important. Thanks. And Janice is asking, what is a theme?
What is a theme? Okay, so a theme is in WordPress, a theme is sort of like an overarching design of your website, right? So so all the different themes have different, we can take a look. So here are the themes that came installed with our base website. And this is the theme that came as active, right? So when we look up here at Doggy Tales, and we can see that we have this banner with the bird flying, and we have this. This is our blog entry, and it's a very kind of white and black kind of color palette with a simple menu. And if we go over to our dashboard and we go to appearance, we see this is the kind of the appearance things that we have to do. If we go to customize, all of this is based on our theme, how many options we have. I know I'm pointing at things. How many options we have to customize, like our homepage settings, just right. So all of that's based on the theme that we pick, right? So all of that, that's what. So a theme is sort of like the design, the kind of overarching design of your website. And there's thousands of themes. And like I said, the next website is going to be very deep into themes because it makes a big difference in how you build your site. But if we go back to themes, I'm going to actually change the theme of this site. So I was going to get to that in a little bit, but we can go ahead and do that now. Thinking. If you don't like any of these themes, they all look very different, but I'm going to add a new theme, and you can kind of get an idea of just how many themes are out there, right? So this isn't even all of them. This is just a pebble in the ocean of all the themes that are out there. But if you think, how do I know what theme I would suit me? All that work you did on the content should help, right? Because now you know how you want your website to look. And then you can go into any one of these themes and hit details and previews, and it'll give you a like a rundown of what that theme looks like and how that theme is going to, what that theme's going to allow you to do, right? So this one's saying, okay, this theme will allow you to do these types of form elements that allow you to do radio buttons. It's good for headers. You know, it should show you how your headers and footers are going to look, right? So you say, okay, that theme doesn't really match with what I want my website to look like. So let me go find a different theme. What about this theme? What does it look like? And it's like, oh, this theme's very strange, right? I don't want everything in little boxes. That's definitely not for me. But that's the idea. You can go through the themes and see which one's best for you. And if you have e-commerce, you can check to see if the theme has e-commerce. I like this Astro theme, and that's what I'm going to install because it's very customizable. But there's lots of themes. Okay, so I'm going to make this one our theme. And when I go back up to Doggy Tales, you see it's very different, right? We lost our birdie picture, and right, and now our hello world is up here by itself, and we have a sidebar, right? So all that came in with the different theme. And if we go back to the dashboard and we go to appearances, under theme, we have all these different new options, right? All of that came in with the theme. And if we go to customize, like I said, this is what I like about the Astra theme. We have many, many more options for customization. So hopefully that answered your question. Okay, so so some of this right here, this is just kind of like a little advertisement for a plugin, this Jetpack thing. So I'm just going to go ahead and dismiss this. And this is just a little welcome to WordPress. So I'm going to go ahead and dismiss that too. And then this, remember I was saying you can find out information about your hosting platform. So that's what this here, that's the Bluehost. And again, these are some plugin information. But if we go down to here, you'll see the at a glance section where it'll tell you that you have one post and one comment and one page, and that we're now running the Astra theme, right? So it tells us about our themes. If we go over to the menu side over here, we can take a look at our post. And we have just the one post, the Hello World post. And we can look at our pages. And we have two pages. We have one that's published, right? It says published, and one that's not published, but was last modified. So if we can take a look at our page. And this is our sample page, right? And then we can go back over to settings, and settings is one where we spend some time in it. And now we're in general highlighted there. And remember we set our site title. So we have a site title and we set our tagline, but our tagline came through a little corrupted here. So let's fix it. Right, so we'll say where your dog's story matters. Right, there's our address, which you can see up here too. And that's the ones I said not to change unless you really did your homework and everything. So right down here, we can see the time zone. And like I said, this is UTC +0, which is basically Greenwich Mean Time, which I don't want to do the math and try to figure out what time that is in East Coast time. So I'm going to change this, and I'm just hitting N repeatedly to get to New York. And now we're on New York time in our website. And our weekday starts on Monday. And if you don't hit save changes, if you just click something else, later you're going to be in your website and you're going to be like, why those changes I made, why aren't they there? Because I've done that more than once. So you have to make sure you hit save changes. And you'll see up at the top where it'll say the changes have been made. Let's close all these out with all this. Yeah, so it says settings saved. Okay, so now our time zone's been changed. If we go into the reading section, we can see that right now our homepage just displays our latest post. And we're not discouraging site engines from indexing this site. See right down here? If we didn't want Google or Bing or anything to see our sites, we could click this box. Like, well, if we wanted to publish our site and allow certain people to see it, like we wanted to kind of test run our sites, we could click this. It won't definitely stop them, but it will say, like, you know, kind of, it will discourage them. So we can't necessarily completely stop them from checking that box, but it will kind of slow them down. Okay, and then we can go to discussions. And this is where you manage how comments are managed on your site. Like as I mentioned, you know, comments can be, you know, a lot if you're going to get a lot of if you're really getting a lot of comments, but you do want to be careful with them because, like I said, you can get comments that kind of hurt your SEO. So I like to say, let me approve all the comments and make sure things are going to spam that should be going to spam and that type of thing. So one of the things that I usually turn off is allow link notifications from other blogs, pingbacks, and trackbacks on new posts. I usually turn that off because, again, that stops like the URL type thing from going into the comments. I also stop the automatically close at all comments. Unless, again, you're getting flooded with comments. Why pick an arbitrary date and say that comment is too old? You want to have that dialogue on your site, and you want to have a, you know, an active conversation. I also turn on that comments must be manually updated. It's just right down here. So here you can have comment author must be previously approve a comment, right? That's another option. And that could be kind of dangerous because sometimes people are like put through 3 or 4 or 5 good comments and you say, sure, he's a good guy, we'll go ahead. And then you suddenly start getting spammy comments from that person. And again, if it's too much, you know, to manage, it's something to think about. Instead of saying they must all be approved, you could say that if I've already approved the author, then go ahead and approve any comment from him. Again, that's just something to think about. Just how secure you want to be with your comments. And then this disallow comment keys. This is kind of helping again with spam. So anything you're seeing come up in your comments that are indicating that you want this also to go to the spam blocker, you would put in here, and that would also be picked up. Okay. You also have users, so you can add users, change the user's role. You know, so if you didn't want the person to be an administrator, if you just wanted them to have view only, you can change the person's password in here, that type of thing. We already kind of went through the appearance about changing the theme, doing the customization. You can also kind of modify the menu that shows up at the top. So we go back up to doggy tails and view the site. You know, we only have one page, so I'll show you that, like I said, in the next webinar, how to change the menu in depth. But, you know, as we have more pages, you could change the menu. So that's pretty much the dashboard and the menu. Is there any questions?
We're looking good in chat.
Okay, great. Okay, so now we've just kind of seen the guts of WordPress, but there's really no exciting things there until you start adding your content. And the way you start adding your content is you start creating pages and posts. Right, so pages are used for your static content, right? Things that you want to create and you want them to stay there. They kind of represent who you are. So some examples would be your About Us page, your Contact Us page, your product listings, and your blog page. Your blog entries are going to change, but your blog page itself is probably, once you set it up, you're going to, like I said, additional blogs, but blog entries, but you may not be changing your blog page very often. And we just kind of saw you go into pages and you can say, add new for the pages. Here's just an example of, a website with lots of pages, some product pages, some informational pages, some, checkout pages, everything like that. And when you're creating pages, they should all have titles and meta descriptions. Now, I'm not doing that during this webinar just for time's sake. In November, we are going to have one with WordPress Intermediate, and we're going to talk about SEO and creating meta descriptions and titles in more depth. Themes determine some functionalities, which we just kind of saw from switching from the one theme to the other, how we got more options and that type of thing, right? To create pages, you can either use the block editor. There's patterns, which are preset kind of preset page blocks that you can put in, so you're not having to create it from scratch yourselves. And then there are third-party page builder tools, which are like drop in, plug and play, drop and tools such as Eliminator and Divi, and there's like SeedPod. These generally have an extra cost on top of WordPress, on top of hosting, but they're very quick tools for adding new functionality. Generally, you can do kind of the more fancy things more easily, like with countdowns and sliding things. They help you do those types of things more easily. The block editor is also called the Gutenberg editor. So if you're ever with a bunch of WordPress people and they start talking about the Gutenberg editor, you'll know what they're talking about. So what are blocks? Blocks are components for adding pre-designed content to your website. It's how we edit, post pages and other areas within the website, and its code enables media-rich layouts, right? So they're kind of the fundamental, even behind the patterns and that type of thing. There's blocks are kind of under there somewhere. When you add new plugins, you'll get new blocks. So if you add WooCommerce to your site, you're going to get blocks based on products, right? So you'll get blocks to be able to show products based on categories, that type of thing. And for the patterns, if you click on patterns here, you'll see all the different WordPress.org's patterns, and you can just copy them and paste them into your website. So if you're thinking, oh, I wish I could find an easier pattern, you could try going to that website, seeing to this link, and then seeing if you find a pattern you like. You can just copy it and paste it into your website. It doesn't have to be in the pattern dropdown. And the block editor, if you click on there, it'll show you all the information for the different blocks. And these two will give you some information about those builders. So posts allow for interaction and the kind of the news section of your site, and they allow for more dynamic content. They allow you to kind of keep your website fresh and continually have new data, new information on it. And they help you engage your customers, again, with maybe a dialogue with the comments going back and forth. They allow for interaction. Posts are generally chronological by date. So if you put one in today, when you put one in tomorrow, that one will be above the one you put in today, but you can set a sticky post. So if you have one post that you create that kind of defines like the point of your blog, you can make that one sticky and it'll always stay at the top. You can make multiple sticky ones and then they just stay one right after the other, but you want to make sure you're keeping some real estate for the most fresh and recent blogs. You post, you want them to be clear and engaging. You want them to have like an image. You can publish them immediately, or you can schedule them to post at a later time. So if you're going out of town or something, you can have them post like this week, next week, the following week, so that your website stays, stays current. Posts can have categories and tags. Categories sort the post into groups, and tags are a non-hierarchical way to also sort them into posts, sort your post. It blurs a little because you can make an item or a post have multiple categories. It's not preferred. So the way I describe it is category. If you were running like a clothing site, then a category would be like shirts, pants, and dresses. And a shirt shouldn't be also shirt and pants, unless you made a really interesting garment. But your tags could be eco-friendly, recycled material, and biodegradable, right? So your shirt could be eco-friendly and biodegradable, or your pants could be recycled material and eco-friendly, and your dress could be all three of those. But a dress should be a dress, and a pants should be a pants, and a shirt should be shirts. So that's kind of the difference. So tags are, allow you to say multiple things about it, and the category should be kind of clear. And the pages thing, you may have seen where it said bowls, leashes, boarding and daycare or something. And that'll allow you to set up a page if you set up your categories that way. And with WooCommerce, you can actually have it so then on a specific page, you could just show everything from one category without having to, drop and paste into that page. It'll just automatically, anything you mark with that category will show up. It makes it a lot easier to maintain your site. Okay, so we'll do another demo for creating pages and posts. It seems like we may have some questions. If you can ask them now, if you like.
Yes, we have one question. Ken is asking, the press landed on my calendar at the bottom of the hour. Oh, I joined on time and it seems like you were into your presentation landed on my calendar at the bottom. I joined on time and it seemed like you were well into your presentation. Did I miss the beginning? Ken, if you want to chat me directly, what time did you, and just let me know what time you joined, we can discuss this. I'll just send you a chat.
I'm very sorry
Sheila,
for that.
you can continue.
Yeah, I'm very sorry that that happened. We will be getting the presentation after the meeting, and I think they're going to be putting the video up on available also. So
Yes,
hopefully
you will get a link to the YouTube recording of this session as well if you did miss the beginning.
Yeah.
I apologize about that.
Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, so so we just talked about posts, so let's go ahead and create a couple of posts for our great doggy care business. So we're going to create a few posts. We're going to go in here and we're going to create a post about how to care for our dogs in summer. I maybe need to update this and start caring for them in the winter. And right now, these are both just paragraph blocks, right? And I'm not changing them. I'm just adding the content to them. And you can tell the paragraph blocks by this little P there, and see how it says paragraph, a paragraph, right? That's actually a header. So I'm just adding the data to them. And over here, like when I click on here, over on this right side, there's the right side thing here, and it'll say block or post, right? And and then there's some settings, and these settings will be applicable to the block that we're on, right? So if I change the background color here to green, it's only to this block of text, right? As opposed to the whole post. If I go over to post here, now we're talking about things that are applicable to this whole post as opposed to just that block of text, right? So so it's visible to the whole public. We're going to publish it immediately. Again, we're not doing the SEO right now, but we are going to give it a picture to make it more interesting. And we're going to give it a little doggy with his beach balls. And there we go. We're going to set that featured image. and then we're going to publish. And it pops up and it has you just kind of re-look at everything to make sure you really want to publish it. So you hit publish again. And again, if you don't publish again, it won't actually publish it. So if you ever think, I'm sure I did that, it's probably just that you forgot to republish it, or we can then look at a preview of it to see how it looks, and we can see if we like it, and we can see our cute little dog, and we can see where people can leave comments, and I think that looks pretty good. So we'll go back over here and we'll add another post. And this one will be about bringing home a puppy. Okay, and the same thing, we're going to go over to the post, and we're going to add an image. And I just have like a whole image file over here, and I can move it over here of, just the different images for my little website here. And put that in there. And we'll go ahead and publish it. Okay, so we're going to go back after this and we're going to look at the home page. And these should be on that home page along with the Hello World. But we're going to add one more post. And this post, we are not going to have it post immediately. We're going to post this one for next week. And then if you guys are here for the webinar 2, you'll be able to see this great post then, which is caring for a senior dog. And we're going to go back up here to post. And instead of saying publish immediately, we're going to pick next Monday as our date when we're going to publish. And we're going to get a great picture of this adorable doggy. Oh, what happened? I didn't. Okay, set featured image of this incredibly cute doggy, which happens to be my dog, for our caring for a senior dog. Okay, so now we have 3 posts, and it should be, oops, and then I forgot to save it. See, I told you, I'm really good at this, at forgetting to save. Thankfully, it sometimes reminds me. And now we can see on our front page, oops, which I just exited as soon as I got into it, we can see the 2 posts, right? And the most recent one on top that we published right away, and we don't see the one for caring for the older dog because that one won't be published until next Monday. Okay, and then we can see them over here. We still have that Hello World one, and then we have bringing home a new puppy and caring for a dog in the summer. Okay, and now we're going to create some pages. And the first page we're going to create is the About Me page. I'm going to go here to all pages, and you can either go here and hit Add New, or on this pages page, there's also an Add New button. So you're going to go there. And we're going to create pages in 2 different ways, right? Because we talked about how you could create pages either using a pattern or using the blocks. So for the About Me page, we're going to use patterns, right? So here's the block section, and here is the pattern section. So all of these are already created patterns you can use to create a page on your website. And you don't have to make them look exactly like these. You can add things and delete them, but you can find ones that are kind of close enough, right, that you might meet your needs. So this one is pretty close to what I'm looking for. So I'm gonna select this this pattern, and then I'm gonna close that just so I have more room. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to replace this image. So I'm going to click replace, and I'm going to upload a new picture, and I'm going to replace it with a picture of our founder. So there she is, right? And then I'm going to tell the story of our founder. And certainly airplane doesn't fit very well there. So I'm going to make it our story. Now, I think that looks pretty good, but I'd like it to be more colorful. So I'm going to make the background, and I want it to be the color of our site, which I haven't set yet. Again, we're going to kind of, some of this is going to be kind of for next week, but this is kind of one of our main colors for our site. There we go. That looks good, but now the text kind of blends into everything else. So I'm going to change the background for that text block to another color for our site, which is the color that's backing up Amanda there, Amelia. Okay. All right, now I'm going to change the title of the page to About Us. And publish it. And we've created our first page. Yay! And that was done with patterns and then just making some changes to those patterns. Okay. So great, we have a page, but what we don't have is a home page, right? Because our home page is really still just our blog entries, which I don't think looks very nice right now. So let's go ahead and create a home page in the few minutes we have left. So we'll go back to pages and we'll say add new. And we'll create home. And we'll create some blocks here, right? So go ahead and click that, and we're going to pick, so we want an image, right? So I'm going to do slash image. Actually, I can pick image already for me. So I'm going to go ahead and create that image, and I'm going to upload another picture, and I'm going to put our cute little doggies. Okay, go to media library. And then we'll select our cute doggies. And if we look at this right now, they're kind of truncated, which I don't like. So we're going to stretch them, which is this here, right? We're going to change the alignment and we're going to say full width, right? So now it'll stretch it all the way across the screen. And I think they could use a caption. So we're going to click on here because it'll add text over image, right? That's what it says. And we're going to add our site title to it. And I want to also add our tagline. And then I want the text to be a little bit bigger. So I'm going to make this 42. And on different and then I'll align them center. Now I think the dogs are a little grayed out too much. So as soon as we added the text, you see the dogs kind of became dark, right? Basically, it changes the opacity of changes that makes them darker, right? Makes it more opaque. So we're going to change that and make it a little less opaque. So I'm going to change it right now to 50%, right? So if we make it more, the picture becomes even less distinct. And if we change it too much, then it becomes very hard to read the text on the picture. So I'm going to make it 30%, which I think is a decent compromise between readability and being able to see the picture itself. The other thing you can do is you can change the focal point of the picture, right? So I'm going to move it up so that the dogs are a little bit more visible. Okay. And so now we have our picture on our site, and we're going to add another text block. So if we come down here, you see this little plus sign? That's how you add another block, right? Because now we're doing block editing as opposed to pattern editing. And we are going to add a quote block here, right? And we have a quote for our site that says, "Dogs do speak, but only to those who know how to listen." All right, and we're going to say who that quote is from. Okay, and I think that blends it a little too much with the picture, so I am going to change that background color, and I'm going to make it the kind of our site bluey color that we have. And then I think we're kind of out of time, right? So let's see what our page looks like now. Oh, yeah, publish. Oh, you know what I didn't do? I didn't change the settings. So we need to go back down to settings, to reading, and change it from your latest post to a static page. And we'll make it our home page and hit save settings. And now we'll look. And there we go. That's our new homepage. So I think we went a little bit over time, but are there any questions?
We look okay in the chat. I just wanted to mention briefly before we sign off here that I posted 2 links in the chat. The first is to a survey that takes less than 5 minutes to complete, and it is required by our funders. We really value your feedback, so any and all feedback would be welcomed. And the second is a link to the Temple SBDC resource page. It has recordings of past webinars, funding opportunities, and links to registration for upcoming webinars. So if anyone wants to check that out, feel free. And Sheila, I will toss it back to you to close out.
Okay, I just wanted to invite everyone to WordPress for Beginners 2, which will be October 26th. The agenda for that is picking a theme, changing your themes, customizing your site, plugins, and kind of managing your media. And I hope everyone can join us for that webinar. And thank you. And if there are any questions, this was put on by the Small Business Consulting, where we do the no cost, and there's training programs, webinars, resource sharing clinics, and there's a QR code to find out about upcoming training events, which will be in the slides that you will get. And there'll also be information about how to contact us. And I really appreciate everyone's time this afternoon, and I hope this was valuable.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great rest of your night. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.